Good afternoon and welcome to More Meets the Eye. I'm your host, Blind Prime. Here we raise awareness for the blind and the visually impaired through alternative means and methods, and this is including to, but not limited to, 1/12 scale vehicles. I love me some 1/12 scale vehicles. I am a sucker for them. If I find a 1/12 scale vehicle that is relatively decent according to reviews, and I find it on sale for a decent value, I'm going to pick it up. For instance, this guy sells at $75 retail. I found him for $22 on Amazon. And I was just floored by that price, and I couldn't help myself. I had to get it. I had to get it because I wanted to share it with you. I heard about the 1/12 scale boat. This is the Fortnight Motorboat, and I have been wanting to bring it to you and talk to you about it because I needed to know what it felt like, because I was just uh, even though I had watched many videos on it, I still didn't have a great mental image. So I'm going to do my best today to describe it in such a way that if you're blind or visually impaired and can't really see the pictures, then you can get a better idea of what this guy is, as opposed to what I did, which is not understand until I bought it. So without further ado, let's get into the description. Then we'll cover the good news, and then we'll cover the bad news. No, description, bad news, good news. Okay, it's best to end a video with good news. I think good news is good, bad news is bad. Now we're going to start from the very tippity tip of this thing, and we're going to move all the way back to the engine and stuff. Okay, so at the very tip we have got this double prow feature that we saw in the tidal wave. This one's slightly different, where the tidal waves came down and was a bit more sharper on the double keel thing on each side, where each came down. This feels more like a split keel. Like there's a section of the center of this that's been removed. And if you're wondering what a keel is that sharp point at the bottom of a boat that goes down all the way from the tip of the front of the boat to the back of the boat. Okay, that's the keel. It goes under the water, and it's what the boat rests on. It's the backbone of the boat. Keels are important for boats. If the keel breaks, the boat breaks. There's just nothing else to it. So coming over here, we've got, instead of a double keel, this is a split keel. So I can feel on the sides where it's supposed to come down further and actually meet in the middle, but they just took a section out, like a very thin pizza slice. That's 2 fingers wide at the top, and then barely two. It's 1 finger, actually. It's thumb width at the back. So thumb plus forefinger or middle finger at the front, and then thumb at the back. That's the amount of angle that this cut is at. Now the right side of this, or for me, it's my right side, is completely flat on top. You've got this little air intake spot for the big engine behind it, but in the dashboard, in the window and stuff, but there's nothing at all. And we're going to talk about this in bad news, but it's got some okay textures, but there's not even a rivet. There's really nothing. It's all just smooth on that side, except where this pipe comes out. And we'll talk more about that pipe when we get there. But on this side here, it just pops out right, about a finger's width before that. You know what? Where's my handy dandy Lego pad? Let's do this right. Okay, come here, handy dandy Lego pad. Okay, so before we even get to the dashboard of this, the area that we're talking about here is. Hey, come on, don't be a bud. Okay, there we go, and there. All right, that means it's 11 studs, 12 studs. We'll give it 12 studs from the point to where this little split ends for these things. Now it goes even further on the side. From the point to there is, oh wow, that is much further. It's actually easier just to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 minus 32 is 27. So it's 27 studs long from there. Yeah, pretty wild. Now, coming down here onto this side, let's see, the width of this thing is actually, there it goes. We're gonna flip it down around there to get a nice solid width. And the widest this empty space is there it is. Oh wow. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 width. Okay, not too bad. A big area. Now we're going to spin it around to the other side. I don't know what I just knocked over, but we knock things over here at Blind Prime all the time. On the other side, we've got the missile launcher, which takes up a chunk of the area that doesn't have anything on it on the other side. Now this missile does come out. You can pop it out. It's got a big old port here at the bottom, and that does not fit anything Transformers related, I believe. Let's see. So we've got this Transformers blast effect. Let's see if the port fits in. Oh, my bad. The port does kind of fit into that. Not the best, but it does fit. Now let's see if we can plug this Transformers blast effect into that section there. Oh, we can. Oh, that makes this better. It's Bloosh compatible according to Markiplier. Wow, saw it here first at blind_prime. I don't think any other action figure reviewer has actually pulled out a Transformers blast effect and tried it here, but that works. I like it. I'm keeping that. That's nice. Rocket's mid-flight. That's cool. Now, we are actually going to take it out so we can describe this texture-wise. There is a hollow section under there, but that's for the fin of the rocket so that it doesn't interfere with anything. And then you've got a little 5mm port. That is a 5mm port. That's nice. And then there's a big bulbous area behind it, and that's actually a way for the rocket to reload, I guess, because it feels like it goes below. And either that or it's actually a chamber built so that the rear of the rocket, the backflow from the rocket, doesn't burn anybody on the boat, but it's captured in this chamber and sent directly down, possibly to be diffused out behind the boat to ensure none of that hot air causes this boat to catch on fire. Because a boat on fire is bad. All right, you may be surrounded by water, but your only source of land and stability is burning. It's not good to be in a burning boat. So I'm happy to see some fire safety right there. That's nice. I always enjoy me some fire safety. Now, there is also a pipe that comes up at the same area on the other side. So both sides have the same pipe, and it comes down from here. And now that we're done talking about all this, we can talk about the pipe. But first off, let's talk about the size of this missile, just so you get an understanding of how big this missile is. Don't fall away, missile. I want you to talk about. All right. Let's actually use you. There we go. Right there. Mr. Missile. Okay, not counting the siege peg on the back. We have got a missile that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 studs in length. Taking in effect the siege peg, we've got a missile that is 6 studs in length. Not a bad missile at all, and it works really well for 1/12 scale. That's a big old missile. A big old missile. All right. Now, coming down here on the side, we've got the pipe that comes down from each end and actually goes into the sides in 2 different places. And this is not an exhaust pipe. I think this may be more of an air intake pipe because this big old venti thing is right in front of the split, and it feels like it's got a bunch of vents in there. And I'm assuming that's actually the air intake for the engine because the pipes come up right behind, right beside it. So you just on the other side, pipe go all the way down, and then it splits into 2, and each end of that pipe goes into the side of the boat in a different place. And I assume it's for the engines in the back, but we'll get into that in a second. So come down further past the pipe. By the way, there's not many textures on the side of this boat other than the pipe and a really smooth underside of a boat. You want your underside of the boat to be smooth, no barnacles, please. Now, moving the engine, you can actually pull this little big old jet engine thing out of the side of the boat, and then you can, it's on a little spring that pops up, then you can pop it down and shove it in, okay? And you can pull it out and let it go, and it pops up. There's no release button or something. This is all kind of a manual thing that you can do, but you bring out the giant jet engine for extra speed, or you can pop it in, and it's closer to the water and able to get rusty and stuff. I do not get that. Hey, let's store engine closer to the water. It feels like this is a very important jet engine, so it better seal itself before it gets close to the water. You may actually accidentally ruin something inside of it. Now, that's the engine. We rotate it around to the back here, and we've got this rear area where we've got a little, feels like this is actually the memory of a ladder on the side. Is it on the other side too? Yeah, there's these little etchings of what feels like a ladder or could just be a, kind of just a vent or a texture in the back of the boat. It would be nice if there was a ladder on one of the sides of the back of this boat, but yeah, it's oh well. Now, coming in further, we've got this winch that sticks out, and this winch has no cord to it. It doesn't come with a cord or anything like that, but I've been thinking about it, and if you take some fishing line or some sort of cord, something, You can make it up yourself. That allows some versatility here. And what would you need this winch for? Well, if you attach it correctly, I was thinking to myself, all right, you get a snow serpent. You take the skis from the snow serpent, and then you take a cord, you attach the cord to this, then on the other end of the cord, you tie it to two Lego chains that are connected together. So you're going to have to thread the cord through the center of those Lego chains because the Lego chain connections always have holes in them. And then you want to thread that and tie it off. Now you want to take the other two ends of that Lego chain, make sure it's a nice long one, or not a long one, but decently so. I'd give it, make sure it's at least 5 studs long. And you want to attach each end of that chain to a long Lego pole, because the poles in Lego can be held, not the axles, the poles can be held by 1/12 scale action figures. You want to take that pole and attach it between those two chains. Then you want to take your 1/12 scale action figure, whatever it may be, put them on the snow serpent skis, and then attach their hands to the end, to that pole, so you can kind of have this boat pulling a water skier. And I just think that'd be really cool, and that's something you can do if you had the money to buy a few extra snow serpents in order to accomplish that, because I don't know of anybody else that comes with 1/12 scale skis. So that's an option for you to take if you want to take it, but I figured I'd let you know that it exists. Now we're moving across. We're going to talk about the underside of the boat when we talk about the stand, so we're gonna get into that later. The winch is right above the water line for this thing. You can feel right below the winch is where all the bubbles start, for right where the engine sticks out of the boat. So you don't want to ever fall right below that winch. That is bad news. That is bad area for you. It feels, the engine felt like a jet engine anyway, so, or something like that. I don't know, water jet engine? Yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the. I'm assuming it's something like what Speedo uses. Speedo? Yeah, Speedo. Now, the other side also has another one of those giant engines that pops in and out. This engine has got some decent textures to it, but it is very minimalistic on the textures. Though I do appreciate what textures there are, because there are vents for the fan at the front, and then there are little cuts for the rear of it. It's really nicely. It feels really great. It would have been cool if there, well, actually, I could feel something in there, and before I say something like, it would have been cool if, let me just try and then say it would have been cool if, right? That works too well. Okay, so Transformers blast effects can fit inside. I thought that was it's not a strong connection, and it's a really thin area, so you're going to have to use more of like the flame blast effects that are direct, like you would use for this missile. That's still like, wow, you can actually plug blast effects into there. That is something you can do, just an FYI. Transformers blast effects work in there. And now let's plug this missile back in with his little blast effect, because I just think that is just the bee's knees. Now, we're going to move away from the sides of the boat. We're going to go into the boat, into the actual deck of the boat. We'll start at the rear, where there's 1, 2 pegs for characters to stand on each side. And there is a little rear bench, I assume, because it's got this, what feels like padding on it. Pardon me. And it's not too bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little bumps in that padding. And then what it feels like is we've got some wood textures here, like wood planking texture going across the entire rear of the boat. There's a giant engine in the center taking up a lot of space in the center of this boat area. A lot of space. It's got these 3 air intake things. Rotate the boat again. It's got these 3 air intake things that you would see on the front of like monster trucks and stuff like that, and drag race vehicles. And then it's just got one of those engines that you would see in a drag racing car all around it, just taking up a huge chunk of that. The textures are decent, but they are minimalistic on this thing. They feel very cartoonish in my opinion. Now we're going to go to the lower deck, because this was kind of the poop deck, if you will, the deck right above the rear of the boat. Now there is this folded over, sculpted in piece of metal. It's not real metal, but it feels like it, and it's sculpted in and goes across to differentiate between the decks. And then we have this deck here. Now we can remove Beachhead here from where I had him standing on one of the pegs. So let's see, we got, and these pegs do work for G.I. Joe Classified, but we have 1, 2, there's his gun, let's see, 1, 2, and that's it. We've got 2 pegs on the rear here so that you could spread his legs out further. and he could actually, let's plug his feet into there and there. Come on now, get your feet plugged in. There we go. Hey, what's wrong with your other foot? Get your foot plugged in. Get your other foot. Oh my God. There we are. Plugged in. Yeah, he fell backwards a bit. He's doing the Matrix. So you can plug him in on either side, and then you can have him come over and grip the back of the chair on either side of the back of the chair. Like he's like, oh my God, we're going to die! Ah, shipwreck! You don't know how to drive a boat. Okay, so we're gonna remove beach head right there and talk about shipwreck in nuts. Happens all the time here. Blind primer. Just gonna move that blast back, put the missile back in. Now take the gun for beach head and put it there. Now I have shipwreck sitting in the pilot seat for this. By the way, the entire deck that shipwreck's on, which is the lower deck, is, but not by much lower. I give it. Let's bring out our handy dandy Lego measuring pad to talk about the different size of this. Boom, there we are, and it is like I thought. 1, 2, 3 studs deep compared to the upper deck, and it's pretty interesting. It only has those 2 connections. I do wish there were a few more, but the plank texture does go underneath the dashboard until it hits the wall. Now let's go ahead and remove shipwreck from the driving position here. I was like, who do I get to pilot this boat? Oh yeah, I have shipwreck, literally a sailor. So let's just have him do his job, right? Now get out of there, shipwreck, get out of there. Shipwreck is pretty easy to put into that position. And I appreciate that his legs are really easy to move around and stuff. Shipwreck, you can go over here off to the side. You're not needed right now, you and your bird. Okay, you're Boyd. Now let's talk about the pilot seat for this boat. Really nice faux leather texture going on here. It feels actually more like neoprene or something, rubbery, and it's got a nice grip above it so that a character can stand behind the seat and hold on to it. I do wish that this would come with at least one more seat. Maybe instead of centering the seat here, you could have put the driver's seat on the right hand side and then a weapons controller seat on the left hand side so that we have a person controlling the weapons. Because and another problem with this, but we'll get into the bad news. We're still talking about texture here. So there's nice steering wheel, little steering wheel pillar coming into a well textured board for all the dashboard. There's even some vents for air conditioning. I think that one's kind of funny that they included that. There's nice little hints and stuff. The side that doesn't have a missile in front of it has some other textures, and it does feel like these textures are actually a separate piece of plastic because it does wiggle a bit in there. But these textures are more like a keyboard or something. Like maybe this is a little computer station because there's a little screen that pops up right behind it. I'm thinking that's a little computer station. And then you come to the other side, and these controls are a lot different. They're bigger. They have more buttons on them and more knobs. And there's not a little video controller above it, not a little screen. There's actually just the missile. That's pretty nice. And then in the center, we talked about the seat here, which has really nice sculpting behind and in front of it. Really well done on all angles. And then we're going to come around here to the front where we have the double keel. The double keel at the front is what we started with, and there's these vents. That's pretty well done sculpting wise. Definitely not $75 worth of sculpting, but I'd give it more than $22 worth of sculpting, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and get off your platform, thank you. And we're going to talk about the underside of the boat real quick, and then we'll talk about the platform. The underside of the boat has mostly just smooth until you get to this engine bit that pops out, and it's actually held in there with 4 clips. It's an accessory piece that you have to plug in independently, and that is the textures of this boat. Now, we'll talk bad news and good news, and then I'll bring in a RAM cycle for scaling. But bad news first, it does float. It does float. It does not float long, but the way it's built and how wide it is, it floats well. It floats very well. It's actually very stable. I had beachhead on one side, and I had shipwreck sitting in the seat, but it didn't wiggle to beachhead side. It stayed very well balanced. I think that was really unique, and I like the way that this one floats. But there's some problems with it. on why it doesn't float for long. And that's because these pop-out engines here on the sides, pop these guys out. There's that hole in there where they popped in, and this pop in is right above the water line. You can get away with it on these sides, okay? You can push this thing back in there, kind of, and try to put in maybe like a rubber stopper or something in there. But that's not your problem. These are a problem if you're if you overload this boat and it sits low in the water. That's going to cause it to fill up with water. But that's not what causes the fill up in the first place. Okay, that helps it because the interior of this boat is not sealed. These are air holes on the sides. Now, on the underside of this boat, we have got this engine, and we're going to take it off real quick to talk about it. So, come on. There it goes. Okay. So, the engine here, in bad news, connects through 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangular holes in the bottom. And I've already come up with a way to fix this. Okay? What you need is rubber cement. Listen to me here, okay? You want to put rubber cement all over this. All right? You want to do a layer of rubber cement, and then you're going to take your little engine piece and plug it back in. And what that's going to do is the line of this is actually in front of all the clips. So, and oh wow, there's actually 6 clips. My bad. I didn't even feel those other 2. 1, 2. I guess 2 of them are together. That's weird. But there are 6 clips. And what they will do is putting the rubber cement on it, and then now you can either use rubber cement, but I also thought about like putting a tiny rubber band around each one of these clips, but I don't know if that would really work. So I think the rubber cement's the best idea. Yeah, would snap this guy back down while the rubber cement's still wet and let it dry, and then it would make a seal around this engine. And that would stop the water from coming in from the bottom, because as long as there's a way for air to escape, the water's just going to pour in. You don't have a moon pole there because this is not airtight. But I think putting the rubber cement there would give you more time for this to float. So if you're doing photography work and stuff and you want to make it float longer, you can do that. And I think that, given enough want and need from you, you can make this thing float in a fish tank forever if you do it right. So that is the bad news. Also, another instance of the bad news is that these little seats on either side of the back are actually too short for 1/12 scale action figures to sit in. 3.75s have no problem. It's perfectly sized for them, but it's not sized for 1/12 scale action figures. So the seat is sized for 1/12 scale action figures, which is just wonky in my opinion. All right. Now, the good news on this thing is that it's sturdy, it's strong, it can be fixed up just a bit with some rubber cement and things like that. I like its length, I like its weight, I like its heft. There's a lot I like about it, so that's the good news. And let's bring in our ram cycle here to kind of compare. I took the boat off the platform so we just get a better understanding of just the boat. And ram cycle goes there, and then the end of the ram cycle is there. So 1 ram cycle, 2 ram cycles, and then 2.2 ram cycles in length. Pretty crazy. Wide is it? It is 1 ram cycle wide. And I think this would make a really great vehicle for either your Cobra, who are ship-based, or your G.I. Joes, who are ship-based. And finally, before we end the video, we'll talk about this fun little stand that it comes with. I do wish the stand was a bit taller, but I do like this stand. They did a good job sculpting in the wake of the front of the boat, where it's like breaking the water, and then the water's going to travel on either side of the boat, going all the way down for a nice Y shape. And that's really nice. And then, of course, if you've been in boats, you've been on the water, you know that there's 2 of these V's that happen. So this first V comes from the tip of the boat. I should say V instead of Y. The first V comes from the tip of the boat and goes out. The second V comes from the motor of the boat and goes out. And they did manage to do that quite well. They gave you the hint with sculpting that these waves are actually going further out on either side, and then in the middle area where the engine would plug in. They've got a lot of sculpting like foamed up water. Some sort of powerful engine is in that water, making everything around here foam up and be shot away in all directions. It is a nice stand. It's a decent stand. It's made of some sturdy plastic. I don't know if it's clear or not, but it doesn't feel like it's made out of clear plastic. And then you can come in here and to put the boat connected to its little stand here. The engine on the back of the boat sticks out just a bit, so you want to go ahead and slide that into a section on the rear for that to, a section in the stand for that engine to fit, and that engine's going to fit right below all the bubbly stuff on the back. Anyway, I have blathered on long enough about this 1/12 scale Fortnight motorboat. If you can find one at a decent price, I say pick it up. I'm going to give this thing a solid 6 out of 10. Mainly a 6 out of 10 because it doesn't do the one thing a boat should do, and that's float. And it has plenty of opportunities to float because, like I said, there's only those holes in the bottom and that one spot, and then the holes on either side with those engines that cause it not to float. And there are ways you can fix that, but seriously, Hasbro, you could have separated those chambers inside, maybe put some sealant down. You've just done the teensy bit more effort to turn this not only into something that you can put on your shelf, but something that you can put in your swimming pool and have floating around so shipwreck can go on a boating day. I think that would have been amazing, and that is why this is getting such a low score, other than the fact that it doesn't have enough places for figures to stand. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments below, do you agree with my score or not? Do you think this is better than a 6 out of 10? I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe.